in, and if Olav or Jan Petter could look into the questions from Oddgeir Danielsen, you can maybe answer in the chat while we are giving the floor to our Swedish participants. And I'm very pleased to give the floor to Katarina Wigler and Malcolm Lundgren, who will probably share, also have a joint presentation. But Anneli, are you introducing the Swedish participants?
Yes, I will. A few introductory words on Swedish policy, but thank you so much for this interesting seminar, a very interesting subject indeed. Just a few words. Sweden has a national target of reducing greenhouse gas emissions from domestic transport with 70% by 2030 compared to 2010, and zero emissions by 2045. And of course, this goal goes for the aviation sector as well. Since electrification is very important for the
I'm sorry, Anneli, you are now without sound. Something happened with your sound.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now you are on. Yes.
Okay. Yes. Well, electrification is very important for the Swedish government. It is a vital part in our work with facing the climate challenges we have, and therefore the government has quite recently set up a commission for electrification in order to speed up electrification of the transport sector. And this commission is an advisory body and consists of 16 members from business, public sector and the research community. And the Minister of Infrastructure is chairing this commission. And it works both with passenger and freight transport and with all modes of transport. And in addition, we are also developing an electrification strategy in order to coordinate the transport system and the energy system concerning electrification. And regarding fossil-free aviation, in the government bill for this year, the government has taken several initiatives in order to promote fossil-free aviation. And for this year and for 2022, the government is adding a total of 100 million Swedish crowns. That is about 10 million euros on fossil-free aviation, and this includes research, development, cooperation on sustainable biofuels, and also cooperation regarding biofuels, hydrogen, and electric aircraft. And it also includes actions regarding charging and refuel. I can also add, and I think Katarina will mention that our National Agency for Transport Analysis has, by assignment by the government, presented a report on electric aircraft. And finally, I just want to add that we are working on a new infrastructure proposition that will be presented to the Parliament in April. And this is basic for a new national plan for infrastructure from 2022, and this will also include research and development, and of course this sector is very important in this field. So that is my words concerning this. So please go ahead, Katarina.
Thank you, Anneli, and Katarina and Malcolm will have the floor. Absolutely. Just a small reminder about we have a very strict timetable, so you do have the time to 11:15.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll try to be brief. Thank you. We just want to give you some Swedish perspectives on aviation, just as to continue off where Anneli ended, and on our work on cutting emissions in Barents region. Now, aviation is of great importance for Sweden's economy and competitiveness, and there is a Swedish strategy from 2017, which is still valid, of course, and it speaks of air traffic as an important mode for fast communication, and that it connects Sweden and the outside world as well. Now, Barents region, of course, is a part where aviation is especially needed, and well, good transport links are crucial for attractiveness and exchange between countries within and between regions, of course. And more direct connections reduces travel time and environmental impact as well. And through aviation, conditions are created for increased business exchange and developed competitiveness. So aviation is regarded as an important transport mode. Oh, sorry about that. That was too fast. Now, the challenges with aviation, of course, is that it's as we have heard from Norway, that was a very good presentation. It really shows that environmental and climate impact of aviation is a very important issue. You spoke about the Paris Agreement, and Anneli spoke about the Swedish climate goals. They are, of course, valid also for aviation. And other aspects of sustainability is, of course, the energy efficiency, cost efficiency, social development, as I said before, pointed out in the strategy. And there are also increasing needs of accessibility to be taken account of. Let me see. Okay, so typical Swedish developments and solutions would be, as has been touched before, the participation in common EU projects, and interesting example there would be Spara 2020, of course, and a use case ACDM Lighthemavan, its digitalization amongst other projects. I won't go into detail due to the time limit, but I think most of you are aware of that, perhaps. Other developments and initiatives aiming at conversion to fossil-free transport through electric-powered aircraft, sustainable renewable fuels, and hydrogen mentioned earlier, is made in Sweden through policy making, R&I funding, as Anneli mentioned, and legislation. And within the policy making can be mentioned the strategies she was talking about within electrification. Also, the government is now working on a hydrogen strategy based partly on input from a lot of different industrial actors in Sweden. That's going to be really interesting to see what happens. And then we have under the funding, Anneli mentioned the funding from different kind of authorities in Sweden concerning charging infrastructure, a possibility of cooperation within the field of sustainable fuels, as well as electrification. Different authorities in Sweden have are able to grant funding such as for instance, the Swedish Energy Agency and the Swedish Environmental Protection Agency. They have an investment program called the Climate Leap, for instance, which also includes aviation. And on the legislation area, we can mention that there is a proposed legislation on greenhouse gas reduction mandate for including aviation biofuels from the summer of 2021. It's a planned one and it hasn't been decided on yet, but it's a proposition from the government. And other solutions and developments are regional cross-border projects. That's not governmental actions, but we have a lot of interesting projects that Sweden participates in together with other countries in the Barents region, and projects to actually to point out there could be Green Flyway, cooperation between Norway and Sweden. And FAIR, and we know we're going to hear more about FAIR today, so I'm not going to go into detail on that. Oops, sorry. So this is the SPARA partner picture. I'm just going to skip that hastily. Anneli talked about the fossil-free aviation initiatives, and what could be lifted up there is probably, let's see what she didn't talk about. She talked about the targets on climate, and we have talked about the Swedish Energy Agency funding. The administration where I work have carried out a feasibility study on how state procured air traffic can contribute to the goal of reducing the climate impact on aviation and accessibility. And if there are questions on that, I could answer that later, because I see I don't really have time to go into it. But it's rather interesting. And the Swedish aviation industry has made a roadmap together with other industry areas as how they will be fossil-free while also increasing their competitiveness. And their goal is a fossil-free domestic aviation in 2030 and a fossil-free domestic and in and outbound aviation in 2045. So that's also interesting, and that's what the Swedish aviation industry is working towards. Also, we have, when speaking about infrastructure, proper infrastructure questions, there is an Interreg finance project in Sweden called Grön Flygplats, which means green airport, and it involves up to 26 non-state-owned airports which are greening their own their vehicles, how they treat de-icing, etc. And talking about electric powered aircraft finally, as was mentioned before, the Heart Aerospace company based in Gothenburg in Sweden are working on developing an aircraft within a project called Elise. You can see it on a picture there. Also, there is, and I suppose this is relevant for more of you, a Nordic network for electric aviation called NEA, which works for accelerating the development in electric aviation. Also, Anneli mentioned the study by Traffic Analysis on the possibilities of greater use of electric powered aircraft, and they have looked at different future scenarios in order to try to look into the, what do you call that, the ball, to see what's going to happen with electric aviation and how can we take that into account. There is, for the other airports in Sweden, the state-owned airports, we have 10, and they're managed by Swedavia. They have a strategy for electric-powered aircraft, and their aim, the goal, is to serve electric-powered aircraft from 2025. And then it's also the feasibility study that we have made that I mentioned before on how to contribute to reducing aviation climate impact. We're looking into biofuels there and electric aircraft. So finally then, I'm going to quit there since I see it's 16 past. Sorry about that, Paul. And if you want to know more about the procurement of air traffic, maybe we can get back to that, or I can, please address questions to me and I will go into that.
Yes,
sorry.
Thank you very much, Katarina. And the procurement, the issue of procurement, how we can promote and support implementation of that technology is really one key issue, I think. But we will maybe touch upon that later in today's webinar. But now I would like to give the floor to our Russian colleagues. We have Anton Nikiforov, who will introduce the Russian speakers. He is the head of the Division of Industrial Development of Air Transport in the Ministry of the Russian Federation. So, Anton, the floor is yours. I look forward to the Russian intervention.
Thanks a lot. I will try to be in English language. So, if I will have some problem, I will change to the Russian. So thanks a lot for this meeting, for the participation, and our presentation also will be in a two-part. So the screen is okay. So I would like to start with words about the aviation in the Barents region. Here we have some volume of the passenger services in 2019 in our 5 region in Russian Federation is a part of the Barents region. So in 2020 we have some less volumes due to the objective reason, and the following international airports are operating in the Republic of Karelia, the Arkhangelsk region, the Murmansk region, and Komi Republic is Petrozavodsk, Arkhangelsk, and Murmansk, and Syktyvkar. In accordance with the terms of the agreements between the government of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics or Russian Federation and the governments of Norway, Sweden, and the Republic of Finland on air services, Norwegian, Swedish, and Finnish airlines are allowed to operate flights to the mentioned international Russian airports. However, unfortunately, air carriers of the mentioned countries do not operate now flights to Petrozavodsk, Arkhangelsk, Murmansk, and Syktyvkar. I can say with confidence that we will happy to welcome new foreign carriers at the Russian airports mentioned above. Of course, after
excuse me, Anton, your slides are not changing. We have only the opening slide from you.
Opening slides, so
it's only your first slide who is visual there. Now I see, yes, now it's changing. Thank you.
Okay, I will do it in this way.
Thank you very much.
So this is volumes in 2019, it's just the information, and in 2012 some less numbers. And about happy to welcome new foreign air carriers at the Russian airports mentioned above. Of course, after the removal of the COVID-19 restrictions. So to do this, you will need a few steps to set to fix a new destination in Russia by means of exchange of letters between the aeronautical authorities. In case of Russia, is the Department of State Policy in Civil Aviation of the Ministry of Transport in Russia. The second point is the foreign authorities should prepare a diplomatic note on the designation of the air carrier. And the last point, the carrier should apply for flights to the Federal Air Transport Agency in accordance with the AIP of Russia. So, joint issues that we will see, that we see now, is to improve our relationship and create the close cooperation for safe and ecology-friendly flights, and to increase the number of international flights. So for me, now this is the end, and I would like to introduce my colleagues from the science point of view, let me say like this. Please. Oh, sorry.
Switching. Please,
stop share and you will start share, yes?
yeah. So, okay, thank you very much. For letting us to inviting for this nice workshop webinar. My name is Sergey Chernysh, and I'm representing National Center in the area of aeronautics of the Russian Federation, and it's consists of several prominent Russian research institutes like TSAGI, CIAM, Siberian Sibnia, Research Institute of Aviation Systems, and testing facility also. So it's like combining about 11,000 researchers and engineers together in one under one umbrella of National Research Center. Okay, next one, please. Oh, I can switch myself. Okay. So regarding Russian research program and efforts, first of all, I would like to say that thank you for giving such overview of their efforts specifically for Arctic area, but they are common for today's concern regarding greening aviation, greening air transport system, and of course Russia is quite in line with the efforts that are making our colleagues in Europe and outside of Europe. So environment is a major concern for everyone. And regarding several approaches, green aircraft and new airframe concepts, some features already have been covered by previous speakers, so I'll probably just skip them. And maybe just mention, don't be afraid, we are talking about also about supersonic civil jet these days. You know that we have some projects in Europe, Russia, US, you know, considering environmentally friendly supersonic transport of next generation. But that's kind of coming for a few years. I think regular flights are planning for in the next decade, I guess. Next one. Okay. So, and again, that one was mentioned by our colleagues before. That's typical European sketch of decarbonization plan for various scenarios when we don't change anything and we have just growth of annual growth in aviation traffic 4%, or if we have efficiency improvement of existing aircraft and new aircraft for 2%, then next slide, and sustainable aviation fuel and radical technologies can bring it down. And no, we are talking today for zero emission aviation. Besides Russia, of course, I'm representing personally International Forum of Aviation Researchers, combining national research centers worldwide, 26 centers, NASA, US, DLR, Germany, and so on. And from Sweden, it's FOI, National Research Center of Sweden. And we have our own declaration and ambitious strategy called Zero Emission Aviation. It was published in their last aviation summit in Berlin just a few months ago. And again, we are in line as a country, Russia, together with our ministries, Ministry of Transport and Ministry of Industry, in this with this strategy. And the major environment factors are shown in the upper picture. So since supersonic aviation, we are talking not only about decarbonization, but some potential ozone layer destruction, so due to NOx emission. So, and other factors have been covered by speakers before. So next. Again, we are in line with European strategic roadmap, technology roadmap, and participating in various research projects. I would like to mention just two of them. IMATHEP at Footprint 5050, that's exactly about new aviation, like full electric aircraft or small size, and hybrid aviation and hybrid electric, plus turbo engine, and so on and so on. And the Russian map, technology map, looks pretty same. Just we focus a lot today on hybrid electric, as mentioned, and hydrogen fuel. The previous decade, we paid a lot of attention to so-called gas, not gas, but gas to liquid fuels that is typically burned out without any purpose in vast territory of Siberia. But today, it's, due to Russian national program, it's been extracted from the oil sources, and we study, and actually we have a few demonstration aircraft, both airplanes and helicopters that can use gas to liquid fuels, and they more kind of not so severe kind of carbon emission fuel, a bit less. But of course, it doesn't solve any, huge major problem of decarbonization. That's we need to go further for hybrid or electric even aircraft or hydrogen in the future. But hydrogen, we should keep in mind potential, someone mentioned here today, potential artificial clouds, so condensated wakes. That's also quite big issue, so we should address in our research programs. Also the previously developed flight demonstrator based on Tupolev 154 aircraft. It's called 55 for cryogenic methane and 56 for cryogenic hydrogen. Has been developed in 1988. We would like to use this technology, and actually it was shown that it's not really something far away from us. It's just a matter to develop all infrastructure, ground infrastructure, and a few extra aircraft systems, cryogenic systems aboard, but that's quite feasible and quite realistic. And here you can see two more concepts developed in Russia using liquid hydrogen, different configurations, but that's also like concept design available today in Russia. That is again reference to Clean Sky European approach It's pretty same what you mentioned before. I think Mr. Steinland, the time schedule to introducing full electrical aircraft, but that's small size. Hybrid electric further for 25 through 35, and turbo/limited hybrid further 5 more years, and then finally, kind of in longer horizon, it's turbo electric using hot temperature superconductivity. That's kind of under extensive research stage today in Russia, high temperature superconductivity.
Can you round up, Mr. Shenesev, within 1 or 2 minutes, please?
I will, try to be, okay. So just a little bit increase the speed. A few projects with some specific characteristics. And the important thing, I think, that for aviation, that it's not only aviation. Aviation is important. It's just contributing 3-4% in global carbon emission. But since it's located in high altitude, it can stay there for a dozen or even 100 years. That is why it's very important. But the transfer technology can be offered to other sectors of the industry: railway, marine, civil engineering, and you asked about, we discussed a little bit about automotive. So these technologies, fuel cells, hydrogen technologies can be offered there. And just would like to mention important thing that the Arctic zone in Russia is huge size, and Trans-Siberian flights going there, and this zone is very critical to emission, various kind of emission. And one of the major factors, not only carbon dioxide, carbon emission, but global warming effect produces defrost of permanent frost, permafrost, and then releasing huge amount of methane from the swamp in the Arctic zone of Siberia. This is probably the magnitude of order higher scale of warming effect than carbon. So that is why this zone for Trans-Siberian flights should be very carefully managed in terms of air traffic and requirements to the level of emission. So I think I'm done, and thank you very much again for arranging such nice workshop and inviting Russia to this workshop. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This is very interesting, and this is we are a 4-country collaboration in the Barents context. So that is a basic for every event we are carrying out. So questions, comments can be done in the chat box. So I would like now to give the floor to Finland. And I have noticed that Jyrki Laitila and Helena Valtari will be presenting the Finnish contribution. The floor is yours.
Hello, thank you, Paul, and thank you about arranging this interesting webinar, and also thank you about the great presentations by our Norwegian, Swedish, and Russian colleagues. It's been very interesting. So good morning, good afternoon on my behalf as well. My name is Helena Valtari, and I work at the Finnish Transport and Communications Agency, working there mostly with transport sector's environmental issues, especially within aviation. Today, me and my colleague, Mr. Jyrki Laitila, will shortly present on the work and plans done towards the path to zero emission aviation in Finland. Can I have the next slide, please? This one, yes. A quick word about the Finnish Transport and Communications Agency, which is also known by the shorter name of Traficom. We are an agency under the Finnish Ministry of Transport and Communications, working in a wide sector of issues dealing with transport and communications, as you can see from this picture. But today we're going to focus on reducing greenhouse gas emissions from aviation. Can I have the next slide, please? Well, last year there was a lot of work done on the administrative sector of the Finnish Ministry of Transport and Communications concerning climate issues. The work culminated on the aviation sector, the draft government resolution to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from air traffic. The draft version came out in December, and the final resolution will be finalized this year. The resolution is based on the drafting of the roadmap for fossil-free transport, which was the first national analysis of emission reduction possibilities and their effects, covering a wide range of transport modes, including air traffic. In the roadmap work, air traffic had its own subgroup chaired by the Ministry of Transport and Communications, and there was a wide representation, Traficom, Finnair, Finavia, and all the key players within aviation sector in Finland. The emission reduction measures in the resolution were divided into 3 different parts. There were measures to facilitate the transition to alternative fuels and propulsion technologies, so sustainable aviation fuels, also exploring the possibilities of electrification of aviation, hydrogen, what kind of infrastructure it would need in Finland. Then there were measures to promote energy efficiency in the transport system and the means of transport. These are mainly operational means and also developing the whole transport system and airports as important hubs and the smooth travel chains and these kinds of issues, and also measures to reform the pricing system. And in aviation, well, they mainly focus on strengthening the existing international measures, the emissions trading scheme in the EU, and then also CORSIA in the ICAO context. In addition to the opportunities and objectives of exerting influence internationally, their resolution discusses also national actions. So next slide, please. So the 2000s have seen surge in emissions from air traffic in Finland, as I believe in most parts of the world, the development has been similar. Of course, the past year has been very different, but the focus on this work is on the years 2030 and 2045. So the forecast is that traffic might or most likely will get to the road to recovery, and the previous forecast might be reached within this time frame. And meeting these climate targets calls for the introduction of new and effective ways to cut back emissions in Finland, in the EU, and globally within ICAO. And as our Swedish colleague presented, we also have in the domestic transport sector these targets by 2030 to cut in all transport modes the emissions by 50% when compared to 2005, and we're also aiming for fossil-free transport in the year of 2045. And how aviation should contribute, the draft government resolution proposes for air traffic the target to reduce emissions from domestic air traffic and from international air traffic departing from Finland by 15% from 2018 levels by 2030 and by 50% by 2045. And increasing significantly the use of renewable aviation fuels plays a key role in national and international decision making to reduce the emissions from air traffic. And I must say that these percentages, the targets, they are to be achieved by in-sector measures. Then there might be, or most likely will be, also emission reductions done through the EU ETS and CORSIA, and they will come on top of this. But as the sustainable aviation fuels is a key part of the Finnish plans, I will now give the floor to Jyrki, who will tell more about this issue. So please, Jyrki, continue forward.
Thank you, Helena. So I'm Jyrki Laitila, and I'm working as an advisor or in Traficom, and I have been working with these biofuels for a few years. inside. It's not my main business, but I have a kind of short presentation about this, and thank you for Norwegian Olav and Jan Peter about good starting for this presentation. Okay, as we know, kerosene is a good fuel for the aviation because there is a lot of energy in a small weight, and that's the one reason why we can't substitute it very easily. So especially with the long-haul aircrafts, it's very difficult, as we have heard that this electrification starts from the smaller aircraft. And okay, we heard already about the timetable, what will be happening in the future. I have a slide about how we approve these sustainable aviation fuels. ASTM International have standards for the biofuels, and there are 7 different ways to manufacture biofuels nowadays, and there is different kind of raw materials. The maximum amount of the biofuel is now 50% blend, so you can't use completely clean biofuel in the aircraft now, but in the future it will be possible. The problem is that the approval process is very complicated and expensive. You need a lot of fuel to make all the tests needed for the approval. But the good thing is that then it's a drop-in fuel, so you can directly use the infrastructure currently available for the biofuel also. From these lists, this HEFA is the main interest in Finland. Neste is biggest producer in the world with the biofuels, and they are using this HEFA system, and you can save up to 80% of CO2 with these fuels. And the raw materials, they are typically waste or residues. They are kind of fats that are quite easily modified in the jet fuel. One big thing here is palm oil. We have just yesterday our minister speaking in the television about this with is it good or is it bad? There is some PFAD which is distilled from palm oil, while during the manufacturing process it's clean for the food industry, and then you have this 3 to 5% that is not usable in this kind of industry. Then it's used in these biofuels. In the EU level, it's possible to use, but I know that Norwegians and Sweden have said that no palm oil to SAF in those countries. Neste is expanding all the time the raw material map, try to find more and more different sources for the fuel. And here in the down we have a picture where we can see what are the future steps for the raw materials, and forest is one possibility. Municipal solid waste. British UK has been putting quite a lot of money in that area, and Japan is algae trying to develop that area.
I'm sorry to intervene, but can you proceed to your conclusion within 1 minute?
Yeah. Okay. Here is about this power to liquid system. So here is the process, and we have already heard about this, and there is a lot of effort to develop this one, and Lappeenranta University is in Finland the one company that is developing it. Here we can see what is Neste's plan to expand the production. They have big plans they are building a big plant in Singapore just now, and they have other projects starting. And if we look what Finland is going to do with this mandate, we had a study. Finnish company after made a study about this, and the problem is that it's very expensive to change a lot of fuel into the SAF. So they were proposing that 5 to 10% of fuel will be SAF in 2030, but we will see what politics are deciding. We are just waiting. But thank you.
Thank you very much, Jyrki, and you are highlighting very interesting perspectives regarding biofuels. So thank you for casting light upon that.
Okay, thank you.
As you know, the BEATA is a regional organization consisting of national representatives. It goes without saying that the regions in the Barents area are crucial, and in order to find and implement good solutions, the regions are absolutely necessary and wanted partners. Västerbotten County is the chair of the regional cooperation for the time being in the Barents cooperation, and Kvarken is the connection between Sweden and Finland in the Gulf of Bothnia, where this gulf is narrowest. I'm happy to give the floor to Mattias Lindström, who is director in the Kvarken Council, and he will take us through the status of the FAIR project. Mattias, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Paul. I hope you see me and hear me, and you can see my presentation.
Yes.
Thank you for the invitation. My name is Mattias Lindström. I'm the director, as Paul said, for the Kvarken Council, European Grouping for Territorial Cooperation, and actually the only fully Nordic European grouping for territorial cooperation in Europe at the moment. We are a cross-border cooperation organization that promotes all types of cooperation between the regions, with Västerbotten as the biggest region in our organization. And my task today is to talk about a little of our latest innovative project called FAIR, Finding Innovations to Accelerate Implementation of Electrical Regional Aviation. I will try to change my slide there. I hope you see the other one.
Yes.
The FAIR project is to be seen as a first step of preparing the region for early implementation of electric aviation. The project increases the knowledge about electric aviation, investigates possibilities and service both needs and requirements regarding technical investments. And this is to be seen, as Jan Petter was talking about in the beginning, an arena for regional cooperation. And we see a lot of potential in this cooperation. We are sure that this technology will come sooner or later. In this project, we are not looking into technology at all. We just wait that the technical providers will solve this problem. We are more looking into what do we need to do in a regional level to be an early implementer of electrical aviation. This is divided into 3 work packages, with the work package 1 regarding regional effects on electric aviation with market analysis, air network analysis, and also socioeconomic impacts in the region. And this is led by the University and University of Vaasa. Then we have the VP2 with guidelines for implementation, led by Biofuel Region. I saw Arne was also participating here today. He's leading that VP. And the VP3 is a cross-border innovation project looking into what kind of innovations will follow the early implementation of electric aviation and how can our region benefit from that. And that is led by RISE from Sweden. Excuse me. As I said before, we know that electric aviation is coming as early as 2025, and this enables, of course, initially smaller aircraft with seats under 20 persons, and this will also enable faster boarding, since you don't have to do the security checks, and it will be primarily also operated on shorter distances, 200 to 1,000 kilometers, and this would suit very well for our region. This electric aviation will not only have effects on emission, but also on prices that will also lower the costs for flying. And we believe that this will also create new routes and also increase connectivity in our region, and especially in sparsely populated regions as our own. If you look at this map, this is what we think and we see before us as what will change. It will disrupt the system of flying today, and we think that it will enable new regional transport mode with new shorter routes and more frequent departures, and also in the long run also enable new operation models, for example, on-demand services. If you have a look at the map, how it looks today in our region, we have a lot of smaller regional airports, but if you want to fly in an east-west direction, for example, you have to go via the bigger hubs down south, Stockholm, Helsinki, Copenhagen, Oslo, and so on. And we think and hope that in the long run with electric aviation, we will have a lot of new routes, and we will think that this will also be an enabler for regional development in our region, and that you will also see in the next slide. Regional initiatives like this, I think, is crucial if we want to have aircrafts up in the air rather sooner than later. And we think that the new West transport opportunities will reduce travel times and fares. It will give also the smaller and medium-sized airports new opportunities, since we have a discussion in Finland, but also in Sweden about the future for the smaller regional airports, especially now during COVID times. But better interconnection for the public sector will also be created, improve healthcare and public functions, cooperation between universities, but also develop opportunities for cross-border businesses, including emerging energy and battery industrial cluster. And of course, it will have a great impact on the tourism sector if people who come here into our region can travel at zero emission. And we think, of course, that this will have similar benefits also in the BEATA region. Our region, as we see it, suits to be an early implementer of regional electric aviation perfectly. We have the platform, the EGCC, and we also have experience from cooperation. We have the distances, as you know, natural barriers between regions means less competition travel alternatives with comparable transport time, and we have the Kvarken Strait, of course, so that will also affect the situation. But we also have the demand, since it's a very industrialized region. We are a growing region with a strong energy cluster in Vaasa in Finland, and we are also seeing that a Nordic battery belt is forming in front of our eyes with the building of Northvolt in Skellefteå, Freyr factory in Mo i Rana, and hopefully also a battery factory in the Ostrobotnian region in Finland. We also have strong regional initiatives from amongst other Skellefteå Airport that is doing a lot of themselves at the moment, that we can also benefit from that in our project. But we also have accessibility to electricity, which is also an important thing in this puzzle. This project and the partnership we have formed has raised a lot of attention, and we are very proud of the partnership we have formed. We have in our project, we have as partners all our regional airports, the cities, energy companies, universities in a genuine triple helix cooperation model. And we also have formed an extended network with over 43 partners, including consultant companies, industries, Tillväxtverket, embassies, and so on. So it has raised a lot of attention. I think this has to be seen as a starting point for something more, and to form the Kvarken region as an early implementer and a testbed arena for regional electric aviation. As I said, we're at the beginning of the project still, but I think that the results of the project will be of benefits for all you partners also taking part in this meeting, and we are happy to be able to provide you with more information as the project goes on. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthias, and thank you for giving us this very good example of the regional perspective, the regional involvement, and also cast light upon the market for these new services. So thank you very much. And we are now almost spent all our time. I knew it was going to be a very tight schedule, but I do hope you have found it interesting and inspiring. The steering committee of BEATA will gather later to assess the outcome of this webinar. And if you have ideas for cooperation, please take contact with me or your representatives in the BEATA steering committee sitting in the transport ministries. So I would like to thank you so much, all the speakers, for using and sharing your valuable time with us. And thanks also to the interpreters, who's been operating on the Russian channel, but I know you are working very hard and good. So this will just end my job as a moderator today. I'm wishing you all a nice day. Stay healthy and safe, and we will try to follow up as best we can. So thank you, everybody, and the slides will be available at the web pages at the International Barents Secretariat, as well as a recording of the meeting.